February 14, 1929. Inside a chilly warehouse on North Clark Street, 7 men lined up against a brick wall, unaware they were seconds from history. When the gunfire stopped, one man, Frank Tight Lips Gusenberg, would be remembered not for what he said, but for what he didn't, setting his footprints on the sands of time in the criminal underworld. Here are 5 most chilling last words from famous criminals. It was August 17, 1981, in Brooklyn. Dominick "Sonny Black" Napolitano, a feared Bonanno crime family capo, handed his prized jewelry to his favorite bartender and gave away the keys to his apartment, knowing he'd never return. Minutes later, his body hit the basement floor. His last words,
"Hit me one more time and make it good."
He was 51 years old. Dominick Napolitano's journey into the dark heart of organized crime began in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. Born in 1930 to Neapolitan immigrants, he was known for his blonde hair, dyed jet black as he aged, earning him the nickname Sonny Black. From petty thief to mobster, he rose through the underworld ranks, eventually controlling parts of Pasco County and Holiday, Florida, under the powerful Trafficante crime family's watchful eye. Sonny Black was more than just a gangster. He was a man of calculated discipline. He owned the Motion Lounge in New York, a modest apartment building with his beloved pigeon coops on the roof. These pigeons, descended from prize racers in France, Germany, and Russia, brought him thousands in winnings and provided rare moments of peace amidst the chaos of mob life. FBI agent Joseph Pistone, who would later become his undoing, once observed Sonny Black standing atop that roof, gazing over the neighborhood he'd ruled for decades, lost in thought. Napolitano's criminal empire was vast. His crew ran successful operations in burglary, extortion, robbery, bank heists, loan sharking, hijacking, bookmaking, casino management, and drug trafficking. But it was his unwavering loyalty to his men that set him apart. Joseph Pistone, the undercover FBI agent who infiltrated his crew as Donnie Brasco, recalled Sonny Black's reputation for personal loyalty.
"He would kill you in a minute if you crossed him,"
Pistone said, but noted that Sonny Black was also observant, disciplined, and fair, rare qualities in the ruthless world of organized crime. Sonny Black's downfall began with power struggles within the Bonanno family. In 1979, after the murder of Carmine the Cigar Galante, Napolitano was promoted to capo, replacing his mentor, Michael Sabella. He became a trusted confidant of imprisoned boss Philip "Rusty" Rastelli. But the family was splitting, one faction loyal to Rastelli, the other to the Sicilian Mafia, led by Alphonse "Sonny Red" Indelicato. It was Sonny Black's job, alongside Joseph Massino, to eliminate the opposition. The opportunity came on May 5, 1981, when 3 rival capos were lured to Brooklyn's Embassy Terrace for a supposed truce meeting. Waiting gunmen ended the family's civil war in a hail of bullets. But the cost of victory would be staggering. Napolitano's trust in Donnie Brasco, actually FBI agent Joseph Pistone, would be his undoing. As Pistone's infiltration deepened, Sonny Black considered making him a made man, an inducted member of the Mafia. He schooled Pistone in the brutal realities of mob life.
"Every day is a struggle because you don't know who's looking to knock you off, especially when you become a captain or boss. Every day, someone is looking to dispose of you and take your position."
The end came swiftly once the truth surfaced. The FBI revealed Pistone's true identity, and Napolitano knew the consequences. Allowing an undercover agent to penetrate so deeply was inexcusable. On August 17, 1981, he received the dreaded summons. He'd been sent for. Knowing what awaited, he handed his jewelry to the bartender and his apartment keys to ensure his pigeons were cared for. The message was clear. He expected never to return. The execution was brutal. Taken to Bonanno associate Ron Filocomo's house in Staten Island, Napolitano was pushed down the basement stairs. Frank Lino's gun misfired, and Napolitano, facing death with characteristic courage, uttered his now legendary last words.
"Hit me one more time and make it good."
Filocomo obliged, firing several .38 caliber rounds and ending Sonny Black's life. Napolitano's body wasn't discovered until August 12, 1982, in a Staten Island landfill. His hands had been severed, and his face was so decomposed that dental records were needed for identification. The message to other mobsters was clear. This was the price of failing to uphold mafia security. His death marked a turning point in organized crime history. The Donnie Brasco operation led to over 100 convictions and nearly destroyed the Bonanno family. Sonny Black's final words became legend, evidence of a man who faced death with the same cold determination he'd brought to every aspect of his criminal life. In the end, Dominick "Sonny Black" Napolitano's story is one of loyalty, betrayal, and the high cost of trust in a world where betrayal is always just a heartbeat away. His chilling final words, spoken at the moment of truth, echo through mafia lore as a testament to both his courage and the unforgiving code of the life he chose.
25 years ago, as today, the government used income tax evasion charges as a weapon to bring the notorious to book. Arriving to face the jury in New York was Arthur Flegenheim Wright, more famous or infamous as Dutch Schultz.
October 23, 1935, Newark, New Jersey. The air inside the Palace Chop House was thick with cigar smoke and tension. Dutch Schultz, the notorious beer baron of the Bronx, sat at the head of his gang's table, reviewing numbers and making plans. Outside, two hitmen from Murder, Inc., prepared to change mob history forever. Schultz, born Arthur Simon Flegenheimer in 1901, had clawed his way up from the Bronx slums. He turned to crime after his father abandoned the family, dropping out of school in 8th grade to help his mother. By his teens, Schultz was already familiar with prison cells and police brutality, but those early struggles only hardened him. When Prohibition hit, Schultz saw opportunity. Partnering with Joey Noe, he built an empire selling bootleg beer across New York City. Their territory expanded from the Bronx into Manhattan, but success brought dangerous enemies. Rival gangster Legs Diamond's crew killed Noe in 1928, setting off a bloody gang war filled with car bombs, ambushes, and double crosses. Schultz responded with brutal efficiency, eliminating Diamond and Arnold Rothstein, the man many believe fixed the 1919 World Series. Power came at a cost, though. Schultz's reputation for violence and unpredictable rages made him both feared and hated, even among fellow criminals. As the 1930s rolled in, Schultz diversified. He moved into illegal gambling, running lucrative numbers rackets across Harlem. But his growing empire attracted unwanted attention from law enforcement, especially ambitious prosecutor Thomas Dewey. Schultz survived 2 tax evasion trials, beating the system through jury tampering and local influence. His victory in the upstate town of Malone, New York, stunned prosecutors. The jury of farmers saw Schultz as a generous benefactor, not a ruthless gangster. But the law kept closing in. Dewey, now a special prosecutor, targeted Schultz's policy rackets. Facing potential prison time, Schultz made a desperate proposal to the National Crime Syndicate: assassinate Dewey before he could convict anyone. Lucky Luciano, the powerful mafia boss, vetoed the plan, fearing it would bring too much heat on all organized crime. Schultz ignored the warning. He began privately plotting Dewey's murder, even staking out the prosecutor's apartment. When Luciano learned of this, he called an emergency meeting of the commission. The decision was clear. Dutch Schultz had become too dangerous to live. On that October night in Newark, the hitmen struck. Schultz was in the men's room when Charles "the Bug" Workman fired the first shot. The bullet tore through Schultz's abdomen, damaging multiple organs. Despite his injuries, Schultz staggered out, trying to call for help. His associates fought back, driving the attackers away, but the damage was done. Rushed to Newark City Hospital, Schultz underwent emergency surgery. The doctors gave him a fighting chance, but infection set in quickly. As his fever climbed to 106 degrees, Schultz slipped into delirium. What followed became one of the most bizarre moments in criminal history. With a police stenographer recording every word, Schultz delivered a rambling stream of consciousness monologue. His final statements were a surreal mix of childhood memories, business concerns, and strange imagery.
A boy has never wept, nor dashed 1,000 kim. You can play jacks, and girls do that with a softball and do tricks with it. Oh, dog biscuit. And when he is happy, he doesn't get snappy.
Police desperately tried to extract useful information, repeatedly asking who shot him.
Schultz's replies grew more nonsensical. The boss himself, yes, I don't know. I am sore, and I am going up, and I am going to give you honey if I can. Mother is the best bet, and don't let Satan draw you too fast.
Doctors believe the combination of morphine and blood poisoning caused these strange utterances, but some saw hidden meaning in his words. Writers like William S. Burroughs later turned Schultz's last words into a form of accidental poetry, publishing them as The Last Words of Dutch Schultz. As his life faded, Schultz requested last rites from a Catholic priest, honoring a promise he believed Jesus helped him keep during his legal battles. His mother, an Orthodox Jew, insisted his body be draped with a traditional prayer shawl at the Catholic cemetery. Schultz died on October 24, 1935. He left behind a criminal empire in chaos and a rumored $7 million fortune hidden in an airtight safe somewhere in upstate New York. Despite decades of searching, no one has ever found the legendary treasure. His death marked the end of an era in organized crime. The commission divided his territory among other mob bosses, bringing a new order to the underworld. But the strange poetry of Dutch Schultz's last words continues to fascinate writers and historians, a final enigma from one of America's most notorious gangsters. As we leave the twisted legacy of Dutch Schultz, our next story explores another criminal whose final moments were just as bizarre, but in a completely different way. January 26, 1962. At Naples Airport, Charles Lucky Luciano, the notorious father of the modern American mafia, uttered his last words, a wish that echoed the life he never escaped.
Tell Georgie I want to get in the movies one way or another.
Luciano was no ordinary gangster. Born Salvatore Lucania in Sicily in 1897, he built a criminal empire in New York City, masterminding the First Commission, an unprecedented ruling council for organized crime families. He shattered old traditions, forging alliances beyond ethnicity, turning crime into a business empire. His rise was violent and ruthless. By 1931, Luciano orchestrated the fall of the Old Guard, ordering the assassinations that ended the bloody Castellamarese War and abolished the Boss of Bosses title. He replaced chaos with order, controlling gambling, extortion, the docks, and unions. But Luciano's reign came crashing down in 1936 when District Attorney Thomas Dewey prosecuted him for running a massive prostitution racket. Despite the conviction on 62 counts and a 30 to 50-year sentence, Luciano managed to leverage his influence during World War II. He made a secret deal with the U.S. Navy, offering intelligence and controlling the docks to prevent sabotage. His cooperation led to a sentence commutation in 1946, but only on the condition he be deported to Italy, where he lived under surveillance until his death. In his final years, Luciano was involved in shaping mob business even from afar, including the legendary Havana Conference aiming to control gambling and narcotics. Yet, despite decades of power, he died far from the streets he once ruled, still dreaming of Hollywood. His last words,
"Tell Georgie I want to get in the movies one way or another,"
are chilling in their irony. The man who rewrote the rules of organized crime ended his life not with threats or curses, but with a desire for a legacy beyond crime, a hope to immortalize himself on the silver screen. If you think Luciano's final words are surprising, wait till you hear the last words of the next infamous figure.
For Soltani, though, murdering mafia man Barbaro was personal for the killing of his mentor, and the gang was elated.
November 14th, 2016, Earlwood, Sydney. The suburb's quiet shatters with rapid gunfire, echoing through the darkness. Inside a silver Mercedes, Pasquale Barbaro, a third-generation mafia figure, takes a bullet to the head. Bleeding and desperate, he stumbles toward the home of notorious underworld identity George Alex, screaming his final words.
Open the f***ing door.
Those last words still haunt Lark Hall Avenue. Barbaro, just 35 years old, was the latest casualty in a bloody family legacy, stretching decades. His grandfather, also named Pasquale Barbaro, was gunned down in Brisbane in 1990 after breaking the mafia's strict code of silence. A cousin, again Pasquale Barbaro, fell victim to the notorious Gangland Wars in 2003 alongside Jason Moran, and his uncle sits in prison for his role in the world's largest ecstasy bust. For Barbaro, violence was generational, inevitable. Yet this execution-style killing wasn't just another mafia settling of old scores. For weeks, Barbaro had lived in paranoia, rarely removing his bulletproof vest. Only among trusted friends would he relax his guard. But on that night, outside George Alex's house, he was unprotected. The hitman knew his routines, every weakness, every habit. Hours before his murder, Barbaro moved through the day like any other. Witnesses saw him multiple times entering and leaving Alex's home, unaware that his enemies were silently closing in. By 10 p.m., two masked gunmen waited in the darkness outside. As Barbaro sat in his car, they opened fire, a hail of bullets shattering windows, striking him in the shoulder and head. Miraculously, Barbaro stumbled from the wreckage, leaving a trail of blood as he staggered toward Alex's door. Neighbors reported his desperate screams, those final words, before he collapsed face down on the footpath, his heavily tattooed body ending a life steeped in organized crime. Within half an hour, a luxury Audi Q7 was found torched in nearby Concord, its burnt frame a silent witness to the orchestrated precision of the hit. Police knew immediately this was no random act. This was a calculated execution, the work of professionals. Investigators found over $250 in cash in the center console of Alex's car. They discovered evidence linking Barbaro to recent violent incidents. He was a key suspect in the murder of Walid Wali Ahmad, executed in broad daylight 6 months prior. He was also implicated in a $1 million drug operation and, according to multiple criminal sources, had rorted a gang out of $1 million. And perhaps most damning, there were persistent rumors that Barbaro was cooperating with the Crime Commission, breaking the sacred mafia code of Omerta. The streets of Earlwood, usually peaceful, became a war zone. Police cordoned off Lark Hall Avenue. Forensic teams combed every inch, collecting evidence from the blood-stained pavement and shattered glass. The New South Wales Riot Squad performed sweeps, searching for any clue that might unravel the tangled web of underworld revenge. But in the world of organized crime, justice rarely comes through legal channels. Police sources predicted more bodies would fall before this cycle ended.
There'll be 4 more hits before you see the end of this,
one insider warned. The Middle Eastern Organized Crime Squad braced for retaliation. This was not just about Barbaro. It was about power, silence, and the iron grip of tradition. Social media erupted with reactions. Some called Barbaro the biggest dog in Nina Sturblars for allegedly working with authorities. Others declared,
"Dead dogs don't bark."
But even those who despised him acknowledged his complex nature. A friend named Marco summed it up.
He had a good heart. Just because he did bad things doesn't mean he was a bad person.
Barbaro's ties stretched across criminal empires. He was connected to notorious gangster Mick Gatto, Hell's Angels Bicky Steve Mitrovic, and even provided training grounds for Islamic State terrorists Khaled Sharaf and Mohammed Elamar in 2013. His alliances and betrayals formed a deadly tapestry that ultimately sealed his fate. Hours after his death, phone conversations between Barbaro and a Brothers 4 life boss played in court during a murder trial. Surveillance footage placed him with accused killers just weeks before another high-profile hit. The evidence painted a picture of a man deeply entrenched in violence, constantly dancing between loyalty and betrayal. Crime journalist Keith Moore, author of Busted, offered chilling insight.
The Homicide Squad will be looking at whether the Calabrian Mafia decided themselves to silence Pasquale Barbaro because the suggestion is he was breaking the code of Omerta and had become an informer.
Moore knew the family's history well, how the cycle of violence passed from father to son, each generation paying the price for their choices. Barbaro's murder was one of many in a savage 8-month spree that claimed 4 high-profile underworld lives. Each killing is connected through a web of debt, revenge, and unfinished business. His death was both an ending and a beginning, a warning to others who might consider breaking the silence. In the aftermath, neighbors described the terror of that night.
I was watching TV and heard what sounded like banging next door, but it was 5 gunshots,
recalled Theo Paraskevades, a longtime resident.
I came out and saw people gathering. That's when I realized someone had been shot. It's one of the quietest streets in Irwinwood. It's quite shocking, to be honest.
The investigation continues, but in the world of organized crime, answers are seldom given freely. The code of silence remains unbroken, even as another Barbaro falls. His final desperate plea echoes through the underworld, a grim reminder that in this life, betrayal is always met with blood. February 14, 1929. The warehouse on North Clark Street was eerily quiet. 7 men stood against a cold brick wall, their backs to what would become history's most infamous massacre. Among them, Frank Gusenberg, known as Tight Lips, would make his mark not through violence, but through silence. Frank Gusenberg wasn't always a loyal soldier. Born October 11, 1893 in Chicago's Lakeview district, he grew up quick and tough right alongside his brother Peter. Their mother's early death left them under the absent care of their father, Peter Sr., a German immigrant from Gusenberg. With little supervision, Frank's criminal education began early. By age 16, he was already doing time for disorderly conduct. His criminal career spanned 2 decades, starting with petty theft and escalating to armed robbery and burglary by 1914. But it was his partnership with both his brother Peter and the notorious Bugs Moran that cemented his reputation on Chicago's North Side. Together, the Gusenberg brothers became 2 of O'Banion's chief hitmen, specializing in contract killings and bloody retribution. After Dean O'Banion's murder in 1924, Frank and Peter were instrumental in the North Side's war against Capone's organization. When Jaime Weiss took over, the brothers followed. On September 20th, 1926, Frank played a pivotal role in the drive-by shooting that riddled Capone's Hawthorne Hotel with over 1,000 bullets. This attack nearly broke Capone, prompting him to call for a sit-down. But peace was short-lived, as Weiss was murdered 3 weeks later. The Gusenberg brothers' hatred for Capone's enforcer, Jack McGurn, became legendary. They made 2 known attempts on his life, wounding but never killing him. By late 1928, the North Side Gang's alliance with Joe Aiello led to the murders of Unione Sicilian presidents Lombardo and Lolordo, a move that sealed their fate. February 14, 1929, arrived with bitter cold and an early morning delivery of bootleg whiskey. Frank, Peter, and 5 others gathered in the SMC Cartage Company's garage, completely unaware of the trap set for them. At 10:30 a.m., a stolen police car arrived. 2 men in uniform entered, claiming it was a routine raid. The gangsters, believing it was a bust, lined up against the wall. 2 more gunmen entered with Thompson submachine guns. 70 bullets tore through the room in less than a minute. When real police arrived, only Frank Gusenberg was clinging to life. 14 bullets had ripped through his body, yet somehow he survived long enough to be questioned by Sergeant Clarence Sweeney, a childhood acquaintance.
Who shot you? Sweeney asked.
True to the code of omerta, Frank replied, "Nobody shot me." Even as he was loaded into the ambulance, Frank refused to break. At Alexian Brothers Hospital, when pressed again, he simply stated,
"I ain't no copper."
Those would be Frank Gusenberg's final words. He died 3 hours later, taking the identities of his killers to the grave. His silence protected the very organization that betrayed him, the ultimate display of criminal loyalty. Frank's legacy isn't just in the body count or the bloodshed, it's in his unwavering commitment to the code. His last words echo through history as the ultimate gangster's code: never betray the organization, no matter the cost. The Gusenberg brothers' saga ended in Irving Park Cemetery, but their story lives on. Their deaths marked the beginning of the end for the North Side Gang. Bugs Moran's organization never recovered, and Capone moved one step closer to controlling Chicago. Frank Gusenberg's final act wasn't one of violence, but of stoic silence. His refusal to talk, even in the face of death, became the stuff of legend, a testament to the ironclad code that governed Chicago's underworld. It's this unwavering loyalty, not the bloodshed, that makes Frank Gusenberg's last words truly chilling.